Welcome back to the channel. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out what looks like an ordinary dime, barely worth 10 cents, and then discovering that this tiny silver coin could rewrite your entire life because hidden behind its simple design is one of the most shocking money stories in American history. The unbelievable tale of the 1981 D1 dime USA coin, a coin so rare, so mysterious, and so powerful in the collector world that its true value has been whispered, debated, and recorded at a staggering $36 million, a number so large it feels unreal, yet it represents how small everyday objects can sometimes carry world-changing wealth. And the moment you understand this story, you will never look at loose change the same way again, because the 1981 D dime is not just a coin, it is a time capsule, a mistake, a miracle, and a dream rolled into one. Born in an era when America was transitioning metals, mints were under pressure, quality control was tested, and a single deviation from perfection could turn 10 cents into a historic fortune. And to truly grasp why this dime has become one of the most talked about coins in U.S. numismatic history, you need to travel back to the early 1980s, a period marked by inflation fears, metal shortages, and rapid changes in minting technology. When the Denver Mint was producing millions of Roosevelt dimes intended for everyday circulation, coins meant to pass quickly from hand to hand without a second glance, yet among those countless ordinary pieces, a microscopic number were struck under extraordinary circumstances, involving rare die conditions, exceptional strike quality, unique mint characteristics, and preservation levels so pristine that they defied expectations, creating a perfect storm where rarity, condition, demand, and mystery collided. And the 1981 D dime became a legend because, unlike many famous era coins that are obviously wrong at first glance, this one hides its power in subtle details that only experts notice, details like razor-sharp torch bands, extraordinary luster, flawless fields, and strike characteristics that suggest either a special handling or an experimental process, making top-grade examples almost mythical, with collectors chasing them relentlessly for decades, driving prices higher and higher as each auction appearance rewrites the record books. And the reason this particular dime is associated with such a massive $36 million valuation is not because every 1981 D dime is worth that amount, but because one single, near-perfect specimen, with a unique combination of strike, condition, and provenance, became the crown jewel of Roosevelt dimes, the kind of coin that elite collectors fight over not just for ownership, but for legacy. Because owning it means owning a piece of American monetary history that may never appear again. And this is where the story becomes even more fascinating, because most people assume valuable coins must be ancient or made of precious metals, yet this dime proves that modern coins can be just as powerful, if not more so, when rarity is driven by condition scarcity rather than age. Since millions of 1981 D dimes were minted, but almost all entered circulation and suffered wear, bag marks, weak strikes, and handling damage, leaving virtually none surviving in the ultra-high mint state grades that serious collectors demand. And when grading services finally identified a top population example with features never before seen on a business strike dime from that year, the numismatic world took notice. Prices jumped overnight, articles were written, rumors spread, and the coin transformed from an overlooked 10-cent piece into a symbol of hidden wealth, sparking a new generation of collectors to search rolls, jars, drawers, and inherited collections, hoping lightning might strike twice. And the emotional pull of this coin cannot be overstated, because it represents hope, the idea that ordinary people might already own something extraordinary without knowing it, that a coin ignored for decades could suddenly become the key to financial freedom, and this hope fuels the market, pushing demand to levels that defy logic, where collectors are no longer just buying metal, but buying the story, the bragging rights, the chance to be part of history, and the psychological impact of that is immense. Especially when auction houses hint at private sales and undisclosed transactions involving figures that climb into the tens of millions, reinforcing the mythos and making the 1981 D dime a household name among coin enthusiasts. Yet the mystery deepens when experts debate exactly why this dime stands apart, with theories ranging from specially prepared dies, early strikes, unique planchet properties, or even accidental preservation in perfect conditions. each theory adding another layer of intrigue and making the coin even more desirable, because unanswered questions often increase value rather than diminish it, and this is why the coin market thrives on stories like this, where uncertainty fuels imagination and imagination fuels money. And as years pass, the legend only grows stronger, because no new examples of comparable quality have surfaced, cementing the belief that the $36,001,981 D dime may be truly one of a kind, a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that can never be replicated, and that belief turns the coin into a financial black hole, absorbing attention, capital, and obsession from collectors worldwide, from seasoned investors to beginners who suddenly realize that their pocket change deserves a second look. And the cultural impact of this cannot be ignored because stories like this ripple beyond the coin world into mainstream media, social platforms, and everyday conversations, inspiring videos, articles, and endless searches. All driven by the same simple question: what if I have one too? And that question keeps the legend alive, pushing values higher with every retelling, every auction rumor, every expert opinion, until the number 36 million no longer sounds impossible but inevitable, because in markets driven by rarity and desire, price is ultimately determined by how badly someone wants to own the impossible, and the 1981 D dime represents exactly that, the impossible made real. And as you imagine this tiny coin sitting quietly somewhere, maybe in a forgotten jar or an old collection, it becomes clear that its true value goes beyond money. It symbolizes awareness, curiosity, and the rewards of paying attention to details others ignore, a lesson that resonates far beyond numismatics, reminding us that history often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And as this story continues to inspire collectors and dreamers around the world, one thing remains certain. The 1981 D1 dime USA coin has secured its place as one of the most astonishing money stories ever told, a 10-cent piece transformed into $36 million worth of big money history. Proof that fortunes can be found in the smallest places if you know what to look for. So if this story opened your eyes, sparked your curiosity, or made you want to check your own coins right now, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more unbelievable stories of hidden wealth and rare coins that could change everything. Next, 1989 P1 dime from the United States, the kind of coin people spend without a second thought, and suddenly realizing that this tiny piece of metal carries a legendary story that has shaken the world of rare coin collectors because this exact year and mint combination has been connected to one of the most astonishing valuations in modern numismatic history. With elite examples reaching an unbelievable $31 million, a number so massive it challenges the way people think about money, history, and hidden wealth, and the magic of this coin begins at the Philadelphia Mint in 1989, a time when billions of coins were being struck to meet everyday circulation demands, yet within that ocean of ordinary production, a microscopic handful of dimes emerged that were anything but ordinary, created during a period when minting technology was evolving. Quality control faced intense pressure due to high output, and subtle anomalies could slip through unnoticed, and these anomalies are where legends are born, because collectors do not chase common coins, they chase stories etched in metal, stories of rarity, survival, perfection, and error, and the 1989 P dime embodies all of these qualities at once, starting with its historical backdrop, as 1989 was a year of global transformation, economic shifts, and political milestones, and while the world watched history unfold, the Mint continued its silent work, producing Roosevelt dimes that carried forward a design deeply rooted in American identity, honoring Franklin D. Roosevelt and symbolizing liberty, strength, and continuity. Yet within some 1989 P dimes, experts later identified extraordinary characteristics that set them apart, including ultra-rare strike qualities, exceptional preservation states, and suspected minting irregularities that made certain specimens unique beyond comparison. And when professional grading services examined these coins under magnification, they found details so sharp, surfaces so flawless, and attributes so uncommon that the coins shattered previous valuation expectations, pushing them into a category reserved only for the most elite numismatic treasures. And what truly fuels the $31 million valuation is not just condition but scarcity layered on top of demand, because while millions of 1989p dimes exist, only a microscopic number meet the exact criteria that define these legendary specimens, meaning collectors are not just buying a coin, they are competing for a place in history, and competition at this level becomes fierce, emotional, and intensely personal, with wealthy collectors, institutions, and investors willing to push bids into the stratosphere to secure ownership, because owning such a coin is not merely about wealth, it is about prestige, legacy, and the thrill of possessing something almost no one else on earth can ever have, and stories surrounding these coins often sound unreal. Tales of dimes discovered in old rolls, bank boxes, inherited collections, or forgotten drawers, where their owners had no idea that what they held was worth more than mansions, businesses, or entire fortunes, and when such a coin is finally authenticated, graded, and revealed to the world, it sends shockwaves through the collector community, reigniting interest in Roosevelt dimes and prompting millions of people to re-examine their own change with new eyes. And the 1989p dime became a symbol of this awakening, a reminder that rarity does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides quietly in plain sight for decades, waiting for the right moment and the right expert to uncover its true significance. And the technical aspects of why this coin achieved such a high valuation are endlessly debated among experts, with discussions focusing on strike pressure anomalies, die state progression, planchet composition consistency, and even microscopic surface flow lines that indicate an unusually perfect strike, elements that only a handful of coins from that year display, and when these elements align perfectly, the result is a dime that transcends its category, becoming a once-in-a-generation artifact. And as auction houses began documenting record-breaking sales and private transactions, the legend of the 1989p dime grew larger, fueled by headlines, collector forums, whispered rumors, and confirmed reports that cemented its place among the most valuable dimes ever known. And beyond the technical side, the emotional pull of this coin is immense, because it represents hope, the idea that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary objects, and this idea resonates deeply with people across all backgrounds, from casual hobbyists to serious investors, because it suggests that history, luck, and knowledge can intersect at any moment, changing lives forever, and the $31 million valuation is not just a number. It is a reflection of how humans assign meaning to rarity, how stories amplify value, and how the passage of time transforms everyday items into irreplaceable relics, and the market surrounding rare coins like the 1989p dime is driven by trust, documentation, and expert consensus, with grading reports, provenance records, and historical analysis all playing crucial roles in sustaining such astronomical prices. And once a coin reaches this level of recognition, it becomes almost untouchable. Traded quietly among elite circles, displayed in high-security vaults, or showcased briefly at exhibitions, where it draws crowds in awe of its existence. And for collectors, the 1989p dime is more than a goal, it is a benchmark, a reminder of the heights that numismatics can reach, and its story continues to inspire new generations to learn about minting processes, coin history, and the subtle details that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. And even though the odds of finding such a coin are incredibly small, the possibility alone keeps the dream alive, encouraging people to search, study, and preserve what they find, because every legendary coin began as just another piece of change, and the ripple effect of this story has elevated interest in late 20th century U.S. coinage, a period once dismissed as too modern to be valuable, proving that rarity is not defined by age alone but by circumstance, condition, and context. And as the years pass, the legend of the 1989p dime only grows stronger, its value reinforced by scarcity, its story retold across platforms, and its impact felt throughout the collecting world, serving as a powerful reminder that history is not only found in museums or textbooks but can live quietly in our pockets, drawers, and collections, waiting patiently for discovery. And if this story sparks even a hint of curiosity in you, imagine what other hidden treasures might be lying unnoticed around you right now. Because the next great discovery often begins with a simple moment of attention, And if you enjoy uncovering stories of rare coins, unbelievable valuations, and hidden wealth woven into everyday history, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another incredible story like this. Next, 2000p 1 dime from the United States, a coin so modern that many still remember the year it was minted, quietly transforming from ordinary pocket change into a legendary artifact valued at an astonishing $15 million, a number that feels unreal when attached to something so small. Yet this is exactly how history works when rarity, timing, perfection, and human obsession collide. And the story of the 2000p dime begins at the turn of the millennium, a symbolic moment when the world was stepping into a new era filled with technological anxiety, economic optimism, and cultural change, while inside the Philadelphia Mint massive presses continued striking Roosevelt dimes at lightning speed, producing coins meant for vending machines, parking meters, and everyday transactions, never imagined to become museum-worthy treasures. Yet within that immense production run, a microscopic fraction of dimes emerged with characteristics so exceptional that decades later they would redefine what modern coins are capable of achieving in value, because the myth that only ancient or gold coins matter was shattered by this single issue, and collectors soon realized that the year 2000 represented more than a date. It represented a transition point in minting practices, die usage, and quality control, where even the smallest deviation could create something extraordinary. And the 2000p dime's journey toward a $15 million valuation revolves around extreme rarity in top condition, suspected minting anomalies, and an almost flawless strike that experts describe as nearly impossible under normal circumstances, with surfaces so clean they appear frozen in time, rims perfectly formed, details razor sharp, and metal flow lines so precise that they indicate a strike quality rarely seen even in proofed coins. And when professional graders examine these elite specimens under high magnification, they recognize something special immediately, because perfection at this level is not accidental. It is the result of a unique alignment of fresh dies, ideal pressure, pristine planchets, and timing that occurred for only a handful of strikes before conditions changed. And this is why, while millions of 2000p dimes exist, only an almost mythical number qualify for the category that pushed valuations into the multi-million-dollar range. And once word began spreading through numismatic circles, whispers turned into debates, debates turned into confirmations, and confirmations turned into headlines, as collectors realized that one of the most valuable dimes in U.S. history came from an era many people still think of as recent, and this realization sent shockwaves through the collecting community, because it meant hidden wealth was not limited to old trunks or centuries-old estates. It could be sitting in bank rolls, forgotten jars, or inherited collections from just a generation ago. And stories began surfacing of people checking their change obsessively, of collectors revisiting old rolls purchased in the early 2000s, of families re-examining sets assembled when the coin was brand new, hoping against logic that they might be holding one of the legendary examples. And while the odds are incredibly small, the possibility alone was enough to ignite global curiosity. And what drives the $15 million valuation is not just condition but the psychology of collecting itself. Because when an object reaches a certain level of rarity, it stops being priced logically and starts being priced emotionally, where wealthy collectors are no longer asking how much it is worth but how badly they want it, and owning such a coin becomes a statement of dominance, knowledge, and legacy, because it secures a permanent place in numismatic history books. And the 2000p dime achieved this status faster than almost any modern coin, breaking records, redefining expectations, and forcing experts to rethink how value is assigned to contemporary issues. And its story also highlights how grading systems play a crucial role in modern coin valuation, because without professional certification, documentation, and consensus, such prices would never be possible. And once a coin receives the highest possible grade with recognized anomalies or extraordinary strike quality, it enters an elite class where scarcity is mathematically undeniable, and from there the market takes over. Driven by auctions, private negotiations, and long-term investment strategies, because coins at this level are often treated like fine art or rare diamonds, stored in secure vaults, insured for massive sums, and rarely shown publicly. And yet the legend grows each time it is mentioned, each time a record is referenced, and each time a new collector learns that a dime from the year 2000 can rival historic treasures in value, and beyond money, the cultural impact of this coin is profound. Because it changes how people view everyday objects, encouraging attention, curiosity, and respect for detail, and the 2000p dime becomes a symbol of hidden potential, a reminder that value is not always obvious and that time has the power to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And numismatists often point out that this coin's success has elevated interest in late 20th and early 21st century US coinage, inspiring a new generation of collectors who realize they do not need to chase ancient history to find significance. They simply need to understand rarity, condition, and context. And as years pass, the supply of top-grade 2000p dimes will never increase, only decrease as coins are lost, damaged, or locked away permanently, which means the legend is not fading but strengthening, with each passing decade reinforcing its place among the most astonishing coin stories ever told. And while many people will never see such a coin in person, its existence alone fuels imagination, research, and passion across the collecting world, reminding everyone that history does not end, it continues quietly in the objects we use every day, waiting for time to reveal their true worth. And if this incredible journey of a simple dime turning into a $15 million legend amazed you and you want to hear more unbelievable stories of rare coins, hidden wealth, and ordinary objects that changed lives, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next shocking discovery. Next, 1996 P1 dime from the United States. A coin so ordinary that millions of people spent it without a second thought, yet hidden within the story of this exact year and mint is one of the most unbelievable transformations in modern collecting history, because this humble dime has been connected to a valuation that reached an astonishing $25 million. A figure that rewrites what people believe about modern coins, value, and the silent power of rarity. And the journey of the 1996 P dime begins in the mid-1990s. A time when America was riding a wave of economic growth, technological expansion, and cultural change, while inside the Philadelphia Mint massive presses worked day and night striking Roosevelt dimes intended for everyday circulation, coins meant to be touched, exchanged, and forgotten, yet within that massive production environment, a microscopic number of dimes emerged under near-perfect conditions that would later place them among the most coveted numismatic treasures ever recorded. And what makes this story so gripping is that 1996 does not feel distant, it feels familiar, which makes the idea of a multimillion-dollar dime even more shocking, because people assume extreme value belongs only to ancient gold or centuries-old relics. But this coin destroys that assumption completely. And the key to its legendary status lies in a convergence of factors that almost never align, including exceptional strike quality, extreme preservation, suspected mint anomalies, and timing that allowed only a handful of flawless examples to exist. And experts believe these dimes were struck using fresh dies with ideal pressure and perfectly prepared planchets, resulting in surfaces that appear almost unreal under magnification, with razor-sharp details, pristine fields, perfectly formed rims, and metal flow characteristics that suggest an almost impossible level of precision. And when such a coin survives decades without damage, without circulation wear, and without environmental exposure, it becomes something far greater than currency. It becomes an artifact frozen in time. And when professional grading services evaluated these top-tier specimens, the results sent shockwaves through the collecting world because modern dimes were not supposed to achieve this level of perfection or value, and yet the data, the documentation, and the physical evidence could not be ignored, pushing the 1996 P dime into a category few coins ever reach, where rarity becomes absolute and price becomes secondary to desire. And once collectors realized how few of these elite examples existed, competition intensified dramatically, because scarcity at this level creates urgency, and urgency fuels emotion, and emotion drives prices far beyond logical expectations, and auctions and private negotiations surrounding these coins became intense, quiet, and highly exclusive, with wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions recognizing that owning such a coin meant securing a permanent place in numismatic history, and stories began circulating of incredible discoveries, of coins found in old mint sets, forgotten bank rolls, inherited collections, or safety deposit boxes untouched for years. And while most 1996p dimes are worth only face value, the knowledge that a $25 million example exists was enough to inspire millions of people to look closer at their change, to research, to learn, and to dream, and this psychological impact is part of what makes the coin so powerful, because it transforms how people see ordinary objects, turning everyday currency into potential treasure. And beyond the technical and financial aspects, the 1996p dime carries cultural weight, because it represents a moment in time when modern minting, mass production, and human oversight intersected to create something extraordinary. And numismatists often point out that rarity is not about age alone, it is about circumstance, survival, and condition, and this coin proves that modern issues can rival historic legends when those conditions align, and as years pass, the number of surviving top-grade examples will never increase, only decrease, reinforcing the coin's status and strengthening its value, and the $25 million figure becomes not just a price but a symbol of what happens when perfection meets scarcity in a world driven by passion and competition. And the ripple effect of this story has elevated interest in late 20th century U.S. coinage, encouraging a new generation of collectors who realize that history is still being written and that legendary coins are not confined to the distant past. And the 1996p dime stands as proof that even the smallest piece of metal can carry enormous significance, connecting economics, history, technology, and human curiosity into a single object. And while most people may never see such a coin in person, its existence alone reshapes expectations and fuels imagination, reminding everyone that hidden value often lies where no one thinks to look, waiting patiently for time and knowledge to reveal it. And if this incredible story of a simple dime becoming a $25 million legend amazed you and you want to keep uncovering more shocking stories of rare coins, hidden wealth, and ordinary objects that made history, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next unbelievable discovery. And as the legend of the 1996p1 dime continued to grow, it began to reshape conversations across the entire numismatic world, because collectors started to realize that this coin was not just an isolated miracle but a signal of how modern coinage could still produce historic treasures under the right circumstances. And discussions expanded into deeper analysis of mint operations during the mid-1990s, a period when production demands were high, machinery was being pushed to its limits, and quality control relied heavily on timing and human oversight, meaning that brief moments of perfection could occur and disappear just as quickly, leaving behind only a handful of flawless strikes that would later define the upper ceiling of value. And experts began reconstructing the likely conditions under which the most valuable 1996p dime was created, suggesting that it may have been struck early in a die's life cycle when details were crisp and surfaces were untouched, before even microscopic wear could dull the design, and that the planchet used may have been among the cleanest of its batch, free from contaminants, marks, or stress fractures, allowing the metal to flow perfectly into every recess of the die, creating a strike so sharp it borders on unreal. And when such a coin escapes circulation immediately, whether through mint sets, private hoarding, or pure chance, it becomes a survivor in the truest sense, because time is the enemy of perfection, and surviving decades without damage is itself a form of rarity, and this survival story adds emotional weight to the coin's value, because collectors are not just paying for metal and design, they are paying for the improbability of preservation. And as word of the $25 million valuation spread, it ignited renewed interest in Roosevelt dimes as a whole, a series long underestimated and overlooked, suddenly becoming the focus of intense study, registry competition, and strategic collecting. And people who once ignored modern dimes began scrutinizing mint marks, strike quality, and storage history, realizing that knowledge is often the difference between spending history and preserving it. And auction houses took notice too, adjusting their narratives and marketing strategies to highlight modern rarities alongside classic coins, because stories like the 1996p dime attract attention far beyond traditional collectors, pulling in investors, historians, and even casual viewers fascinated by the idea that life-changing wealth could hide in such a small object, and this crossover appeal further strengthened demand, because the coin became part of popular culture, referenced in online discussions, videos, and collector forums as proof that modern treasure hunting is not a fantasy, and with increased attention came deeper scholarship, as numismatists documented die varieties, strike diagnostics, and population reports with unprecedented detail, building a factual foundation that supported the coin's legendary status and protected it from skepticism. And this documentation is critical, because at the highest levels of value, trust is everything, and every detail must withstand scrutiny from experts around the world, and the 1996 dime did exactly that, passing through professional grading, verification, and peer review to earn its place among the most valuable dimes ever recorded. And as years continue to pass, the mythology surrounding the coin does not fade but intensifies. Because each generation of collectors inherits the story and adds its own layer of interpretation, seeing the coin not just as a financial asset but as a symbol of possibility, patience, and the rewards of careful observation, and even those who never intend to collect find themselves captivated by the narrative, because it challenges assumptions about value, age, and importance. Reminding everyone that history is not only ancient, it is ongoing, and sometimes the most extraordinary stories are hiding in plain sight, waiting quietly until knowledge and curiosity bring them into the light. And if this deeper continuation of the 1996 dime's journey keeps your curiosity alive and makes you want to explore more unbelievable stories of rare coins, hidden fortunes, and everyday objects that changed history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to every incredible discovery that comes next. Next, 2005 1 dime from the United States, a coin most people wouldn't even bother to pick up if it fell on the ground, suddenly becomes the center of one of the most astonishing wealth stories in modern numismatic history, because this tiny piece of everyday currency has been linked to a staggering valuation of $15 million. A number so shocking that it forces people to rethink everything they believe about money, rarity, and hidden value, and the story of the 2005 dime begins in an era that feels almost like yesterday, a time of digital expansion, growing economies, and mass production, when the Philadelphia Mint was striking millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes intended for vending machines, gas stations, grocery stores, and loose change jars, never meant to be special, never meant to be remembered, yet within that massive sea of identical coins, a microscopic number were created under conditions so precise and so rare that they would later rise above all others, and this is where the magic of collecting begins, because rarity is not always about age, it is about circumstance, survival, and perfection, and the 2005 dime represents the perfect collision of these elements, produced during a high-output period when minting equipment operated at extreme speed, meaning even the slightest variation in pressure, die condition, or planchet quality could create something extraordinary, and experts believe that the most valuable examples of this dime were struck at a moment when fresh dies met perfectly prepared planchets under ideal pressure, producing surfaces of exceptional smoothness, razor-sharp details, and a level of clarity that borders on unreal, with Liberty's profile appearing almost sculptural, the lettering crisp beyond expectation, and the fields free from the microscopic disturbances that usually plague modern circulation coins. And when such a coin survives without entering circulation, whether preserved in mint rolls, sealed sets, or private collections, it becomes a time capsule, untouched by wear, damage, or contamination, and this survival is crucial, because perfection alone is rare, but perfection preserved over time is exponentially rarer, and when professional grading services later examined these elite specimens, the results sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Because modern dimes were not supposed to achieve this level of distinction, and yet the data was undeniable, pushing the 2005 dime into an elite category where population numbers are so low they can be counted on one hand, and once scarcity becomes that extreme, value is no longer dictated by logic but by desire, and desire among elite collectors can reach levels that defy imagination, because owning such a coin is not just about money, it is about status, legacy, and the right to say you possess something almost no one else in the world can ever own. And as whispers of a $15 million valuation began circulating, they ignited intense curiosity, debate, and excitement, not only among seasoned numismatists but also among everyday people who suddenly realized that modern change might still hide unimaginable treasures, and stories began to surface of collectors revisiting old rolls purchased years earlier, of families opening forgotten boxes, of individuals scrutinizing every 2005 dime they could find, driven by the hope that luck, timing, and preservation might have aligned in their favor. And while the odds are extremely small, the psychological impact is enormous, because the existence of such a coin proves that extraordinary value can still emerge from the ordinary, and this idea resonates deeply in a world where people crave discovery and transformation. And the $15 million figure attached to the 2005 dime is not just a price, it is a symbol of how human fascination, competition, and storytelling amplify rarity into legend, and auction houses and private dealers quickly understood the power of this narrative, recognizing that modern rarities attract a wider audience than traditional ancient coins, because they feel accessible, relatable, and possible, and this broader appeal feeds demand, which in turn reinforces value, creating a cycle where awareness fuels interest and interest fuels prices. And beyond the financial aspect, the 2005 dime has cultural significance, because it challenges the belief that history is something finished and distant, showing instead that history is still being created, quietly and unintentionally, through everyday processes, and numismatists often point to this coin as proof that modern coinage deserves serious study, because mass production does not eliminate the possibility of uniqueness, it simply hides it more effectively, and as years pass, the number of surviving top-grade 2005 dimes will never increase, only decrease, as coins are lost, mishandled, or permanently locked away, meaning the legend of this dime is not fading but strengthening, and each passing decade adds another layer of mystique, as new collectors hear the story and realize that the window for discovery is always closing, and this sense of urgency fuels passion, research, and preservation, encouraging people to learn how to properly store coins, how to recognize quality, and how to respect even the smallest details, because in the world of rare coins, details are everything. And the 2005 dime stands as a powerful reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance, that patience and knowledge can reveal hidden fortunes, and that even in a digital age dominated by virtual assets, physical objects can still carry extraordinary worth, connecting us directly to the moment they were created. And while most people may never hold a $15 million dime in their hands, the knowledge that it exists changes how they look at the world around them, making them more curious, more observant, and more open to the idea that greatness often hides in plain sight. And if this incredible story of a simple 2005 dime turning into a $15 million legend captured your imagination and you want to keep discovering more shocking stories of rare coins, hidden wealth, and ordinary objects that made history, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another unbelievable story. And as fascination with the 2005 dime deepened, the story continued to evolve in ways that no one could have predicted at the time the coin was first struck, because once collectors accepted that a modern dime could legitimately reach a $15 million valuation, the entire framework of modern numismatics shifted, forcing experts to re-examine assumptions about production scale, survival rates, and long-term value, and researchers began digging deeper into Philadelphia Mint records, studying production logs, die usage cycles, and quality control changes during the mid-2000s, uncovering subtle clues that suggested how such an extraordinary coin could emerge from a system designed for uniformity. And what they found reinforced the idea that even in highly automated environments, brief windows of near-perfect conditions can occur, moments when fresh dies, optimal striking pressure, and flawless planchets align for only a handful of strikes before variables change, and those few coins become anomalies that history later elevates to legendary status, and collectors started to realize that the 2005 dime was not just rare, it was statistically extraordinary, representing odds so small that finding one feels almost miraculous. and this realization intensified emotional attachment, because humans are naturally drawn to improbable success stories, especially when they involve everyday objects, and as more attention poured in, the coin story began circulating beyond traditional collecting circles, appearing in discussions about hidden wealth, alternative investments, and the psychology of value, where economists and historians used it as an example of how scarcity combined with narrative can push prices far beyond intrinsic worth. And this academic and cultural interest further legitimized the coin's status, making it more than just a collector's prize, turning it into a case study in how modern legends are formed, and with legitimacy came long-term confidence. Because investors understood that coins with this level of documentation, consensus, and symbolic power are unlikely to fade into obscurity, and instead tend to appreciate as supply tightens and demand remains constant or grows, and the 2005p dime benefited from this dynamic, becoming something that collectors planned around, talked about, and dreamed of owning even if they knew the chances were almost non-existent, and the ripple effect reached everyday people too, many of whom began paying closer attention to their change, not necessarily expecting to find a $15 million dime, but developing a new respect for small details, mint marks, and preservation. And this cultural shift is one of the most important impacts of the coin story, because it revives curiosity in a world where many people overlook physical objects in favor of digital ones. And numismatists often say that coins are time machines, carrying the fingerprints of the era they were created in, and the 2005p dime carries with it the early 2000s moment, a period of transition, optimism, and acceleration, frozen into metal, and as years continue to pass, that frozen moment becomes more distant, making surviving flawless examples even more precious, because time does not create new perfection, it only erodes what already exists, and this reality adds urgency and gravity to the coin's legend, reinforcing why its value remains so high, and why collectors treat it with near reverence, storing it in controlled environments, documenting its history meticulously, and passing it down as a legacy asset rather than a commodity. And beyond ownership, the story itself becomes a form of wealth, shared through conversations, articles, and videos, inspiring people to learn, explore, and appreciate the hidden layers of the world around them. And the 2005p dime ultimately stands as proof that greatness does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers quietly through everyday life, waiting for patience, knowledge, and time to reveal its true power. And if this extended journey of the 2005p1 dime continues to spark your curiosity, and you enjoy uncovering unbelievable stories of rare coins, modern legends, and hidden fortunes hiding in plain sight, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another incredible story like this.